Hi Dave, welcome back to the Mate Night Podcast. This week, we are tackling Oldboy, a film that stands apart from our usual fare with its dark themes and intense narrative. We'll start with our gut reaction scores and keep our initial discussion to a brisk 10 minutes. The bulk of our episode will be dedicated to our What If segment, where we'll explore the complex twists and moral quandaries of the film. Any time left will be used to chat and update our cinephiles. We have a total of 50 minutes. Today's film is Oldboy from 2003, a South Korean action thriller renowned for its compelling plot and dramatic visuals. Who is going first, Freddie?
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave. Sorry, I realised I just...
No, it's fine.
Right.
It is me.
Okay. I know what my score is.
Yep. I know what mine is.
Okay, on the count of three. Freddie, your rating of Oldboy 2003, enjoyment based alone, entirely subjective. 3, 2, 1.
7.6.
7.9. You know what? I'm glad to hear that it's low. Because I can see why everybody loves this film.
I could give it lower.
Really?
It's fucked.
It's pretty.
The film is tapped.
Okay. Walk me through. What do you think, Ken?
All right, no, I had a question for you.
Okay.
Right. At what point did you stop enjoying this film?
Oh, no, I enjoyed it.
All
I
the way
enjoyed
through.
it. 7.9 is a high score.
See, for me, I've watched this before,
Yeah.
and knowing the way it ends, spoilers for this and the last film if you watch Sound of Music, and we haven't told you.
Spoilers for Sound of
Spoilers
Music.
for Sound of Music if you watch this one first, which even though it comes out after. I have watched this film before.
Yeah.
It's let's say a classic in the genre. It's a very well-known film of this era. Very popular, very indie, very cool.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm interested to see what this is about. Must have been the first Korean film I'd ever watched. And when the whole ending sequence, to this day, if someone asks me, or if I have to come up with what's the most fucked up film you've ever watched, I've always given this.
I am 100% willing to agree with that.
Always given this.
But I am going to take the stance of it was a great film since you've jumped on there. It's not a great film, which I'm glad you did because everyone loves this, but I'll go on the defense for it.
It's not a bad film. I'm going to clarify this.
Tell me why you hate this film, Fred.
First time I watched this, there was a distinct point where I was like, I'm not having fun anymore. And it was the reveal that she was his daughter, which I didn't
That's like right at the end.
see coming. Yeah, up to that point, I was enjoying it.
Oh, the first time.
Second time I watched it, I not stopped enjoying it, but I started enjoying it a hell of a lot less from the point Mido was introduced, because I knew what was coming.
That's very early.
Yeah. Well, no, because rewatching this, I was like, this film was really fucked when I first watched it. And I was going into it knowing what happens and being like, I'm interested to see what I think of this film, knowing it. And I was very pleasantly surprised up until when she starts getting involved more. Okay. There are still great points beyond that, like the hallway fights after that, and the hallway fight is ridiculous, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But knowing that they end up having sex and knowing what the reveal is and knowing how he acts after the reveal, I have that in my head, and I'm like, oh man, this film is just
I tell you what, you'll agree with my 3-sentence review.
Yeah,
I think.
go on.
Then.
Hit me with the review.
Oldboy leaps off the screen as a visually arresting masterpiece. Its dark themes and stellar performances setting a lofty standard for cinematic artistry. The film's complex narrative and ethical inquiries are brilliantly realized through exceptional technical skill, turning each moment into a showcase of filmmaking at its best. Yet, its intense and often disturbing scenes, while artistically profound, mean I won't be queuing it up for a repeat viewing anytime soon, favouring stories with a tad more light at the end of the tunnel. 7.9.
Yeah. This is a film that never needs to be watched twice, but I have now watched it twice, and I had never intended to. When you suggested, let's do Oldboy, I didn't want to give anything away and say, absolutely not. So I just said, all right, cool, man, let's do it.
Yeah, I didn't get anything from you.
I played it cool, but I was interested to see what my own reaction would be, because I genuinely would have never watched this again. So I was very pleasant. I appreciated it much more. Like, from the point of his drunken capture, the whole sequence of him being locked away, some of the dream sequences, the hypnotism sequence, particularly when he gets released and he's like this kind of worldly, you mentioned neo-noir kind of protagonist, when he saves the guy from the roof.
Yeah,
Says,
and then he ends up jumping.
And then he just fucking leaves him.
That's so sick, man.
Yeah.
I can tell why people love this film.
Bits like that, amazing.
It is a belter of a film, but it is way too disturbing. Like, it just... I was thinking, when we had this discussion about The Exorcist, and we were saying this is a horror that isn't scary, what we realized was horrors aren't meant to scare you, they're meant to horrify you. And this horrified me. Do you know he actually ate the octopus? You've seen that, right? The actor.
Yeah, that did look... I would have guessed that was real. Yeah, it looked real.
That was the... I will see that when I go to sleep tonight.
I didn't find that as bad as... So we know he has sex with his daughter.
I didn't at the time.
You didn't at the time. Now, I didn't at the time when I first watched it, and I was, in hindsight, oh man, that's horrible.
Yeah.
But knowing it and then watching the scene is way worse. Like, when I'm watching them have sex with each other and the way she's going like, oh, I just want to please you even though it hurts.
Oh.
I'm like, this is fucking gross.
It's
like,
so dark.
This is so gross.
Might be one of the darkest films I've ever watched.
It's really fucking tapped. And this will go into my change when we get to it. I think that it is... The punishment is not warranted. The punishment he got...
What, for...
For what? For the catalyst for the events, the reason why all this stuff happened for him.
It is mental. But I don't think that the film was trying to justify it in any way. In fact, I think that in some ways the point of the film is like, this is what happens if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and a complete and utter fucking lunatic just decides to set his sights on you.
Yeah.
Because the guy really... I mean, I was like, what could he have done better? And I was like, well, he did hang about a little bit to watch, which he probably shouldn't have done. And then he told his mate, which, like, I guess probably keep it to yourself. But, like...
Would you? Who would do that?
I don't think I would.
I just saw some people shagging in the classroom.
I wouldn't even tell you to keep your mouth shut.
Which he did.
I would have been like, spread the word.
By the way, the reason why he's put in, according to Woo Jin, is because he talks too much. So the justification is he talks too much.
Because he told someone.
All he does is tell one person and say... Don't tell anyone that.
But like I say, I don't think that, because I know it's the same thing. It doesn't take away from the movie because I didn't feel like it was trying to tell me that was a justified reason. No. I just thought that in some ways it was quite a cool exploration.
Maybe,
of like,
but sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Carry on.
No, that's
It just does upset. Having watched this twice now, knowing
it's so fucked up.
I almost want you to watch it a second time, knowing
I won't be.
Yeah,
which is why, like, this is a hard film to rate because, like, it is amazing. It really is amazing, and the plot. Okay, yeah, it is too dark for me. Some people will love that. A lot of people will love them to be that dark. It's way too dark for me, but it was really fucking cool. Like, it was so unlike anything else I've ever watched. And then the directing was unbelievable. The sound was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The acting was unbelievable. Like, it is a fucking brilliant film, but I had to rate it down in my enjoyment score because I spent the whole time with the teeth and the octopus and the cutting the tongue out and it was hard to watch.
I hate this film, but out of respect
it's
for
so
how
good.
Cool it is, the shot selection, the cinematography, the sound design, the soundtrack, performances, the crazy plot, the intrigue, the plot line, the twists, the turns.
Yeah.
Out of respect, I acknowledge it is a good film. And my gut reaction, I'll refuse to give it a bad gut reaction because also if film enjoyment is about how memorable, the lasting impact this film has on you.
How powerful do we feel about this?
This is about as memorable a film as I've ever watched.
Yeah.
It's the Hitler of cinema.
And I tell you what, I was doing just a very cursory bit of research here. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. And the same thing came up twice, right? Once by some reviewer, and then once by the director himself, right? Who basically somebody said something along the lines of what we're saying now. It was a director reacts to your comments. And somebody said, Oldboy is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in my life. And he said, the director, he said, oh, I prefer for people to think of this as more of a comedy. And I was like, why the fuck would anybody think about this film as a comedy? What kind of warped mind have you got to think that that's a fucking comedy? Does he have any idea? Are we talking about the same goddamn film?
I'd prefer if people thought of it as a comedy.
What?
Because it's not.
It's not. Can you imagine? Right, can you imagine if you went to your mate like, oh, do you fancy a comedy tonight? Yeah, what are you thinking? Hot Tub Time Machine? No, Oldboy. I'd be so pissed off if you showed me that when I was
someone
explaining
said
a comedy.
to me, if someone said, do you want to sit down with your parents and watch this fine period piece, and then showed me 2 girls, 1 cup, I would say, go fuck yourself.
Oh, mate. But, we have to keep bringing it back. It was amazing. It was really something special to watch, even if it was just way too fucked up for me.
But the one thing the point you made about, okay, wrong place, wrong time with a nut job, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think they did enough to really emphasize that he is a nut job. The point, they almost said, look, I was just a guy who was in love and it just happened to be with my sister and you fucked that up and now she's dead because of you. And I clearly loved her. Look at this ending scene where I try and save her, but we're unrequited love. We're romantically entwined, but I cannot be with her and you fucked that up and now I'm on a revenge plot. That's how they made it out rather than... Oh no, you accidentally caught me. You accidentally caught me, and by the way, you didn't even know it was an incestuous thing you caught. You only thought it was her shagging someone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to not only ruin your life, I am going to do the most heinous thing imaginable.
Yeah.
And cause you to lose your marbles.
Unimaginable pain. Like the most ridiculous. It's insane. I think that you are right, but and this isn't really to disagree, but I think that one of the things that we haven't mentioned yet is how fucking awesome he is as a villain. Like, he is really cool, really fucked up. And you can't have a villain that is that cool and that interesting if you don't allow them to present their warped justification to you like that. Now, you're right. If the point of the film is this is what happens if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, then they probably could have done a better job of making it clear that is the point they're trying to make. But maybe they weren't even trying to make that point, but that is just what happened. They were just telling you the story of how this thing...
I would argue that they were not trying to... I would argue he wasn't trying to make that point. He wasn't trying to say, this is you're wrong place, wrong time, this is what happened. Because he does show that he is an arsehole before, and the way that Daisu behaves, not only the drunkenness and the leeriness and him being a womanizer, him supposedly being a bit of a bad person outside of this poor event that happens. So I would argue that is not what he's trying. But if he was, if we give the director, that's 2013, Park Chan-wook, if we give him the benefit of the doubt and say, this is a story of someone in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's what he was going for, then he owes it to us as an audience for it to be clearer that is the point. The point is sometimes really fucked up shit happens to you, rather than... this is specifically for a reason, and the reason is what you're trying to find.
But I don't think that that's a given. Does the storyteller have to be making that point? Or could they just be presenting a great story to you to let you interpret what you think about it?
I would say the fact that it's unclear demerits it in my eyes.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's what we're doing is saying... it's an appeal to ambiguity being a good storytelling technique.
I think that's fair. It was my interpretation when I watched it. Was like, this guy is clearly a fucking mental case. And they're showing me these justifications, but like, what was it he said? It was all in the same tone as when he said it wasn't me who got her pregnant, it was your tongue. With absolute sincerity. And I was like, that's an example of a time where it felt like it was through the warped lens of the villain, and yet it was blatant that it was completely ridiculous that he would even go as far as to say that.
Yeah, there were a few moments like that, but I also felt that Daisu could have been like, "What are you on about, mate?"
Yeah, I agree with that.
What
Yeah,
you on?
he was scared.
He was scared, but he was also like, "I've got you. This is
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what you."
yeah.
And I know you killed her because it's almost like the big reveal from his point was, "Yes, you were justified because I caught you, but you are warped because I know you actually killed her. She didn't kill herself." Rather than him being like, "Mate, this is mad.
Yeah,
Why did you do it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I caught you. But what did it lead to? People thought your sister was a slag, and then
Including me.
Then she got a phantom pregnancy. Like, come on, mate.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are. I made a list. I made 5 volumes of notes with lists of reams of people, and I didn't even know your name.
Which, by the way, what? He had like 7 A4 notepads full of the people in his life that might have something to do with this situation, and he caught an incest.
Which ties on to my change this.
Okay, well,
maybe we go
that's
into
beautiful. Moving on to our what if segments. Freddie's going to start us off.
What if Daisu deserved what he got?
Okay.
Daisu, main character of Oldboy. In the original plot, Daisu is imprisoned for 15 years without knowing the reason, and upon his release, he seeks revenge on Woo Jin, who is the man behind his captivity, and whose motivation for this whole thing, the reason for Daisu's imprisonment, is that Daisu catches Woo Jin and his sister in a sexual act.
In high school,
in a classroom, and then Daisu goes and tells his mate. His mate spreads it. The sister ends up having a phantom pregnancy, is worried about this being a child of incest, and then kills herself. And the justification, all in Lee Woo Jin's mind, is that the cause of my sister's death, my lover's death, is Daisu. In my opinion, that is wild that he went to that extent because of this one little thing.
It's a bit comical, isn't it?
It's way too much. The crime does not fit the punishment.
It is ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah.
It feels disproportionate to Daisu's actions. His crime was effectively spreading a rumour, and also, it wasn't even a rumour about incest. It was a rumour about 2 people shagging. He didn't even know Lee Woo Jin. He just said, "I saw that girl shagging. I'm going to tell his mate," which anyone would do. If I saw a girl who I vaguely knew having sex with a person in a classroom at school, I'd tell my mate. I probably wouldn't say, "Don't tell anyone." I'd say, "Let's tell everyone."
I would tell a few people, at least.
And Lee Woo Jin suggests that Daisu has too big a mouth. That is his justification for his imprisonment. Word for word is... Well, it's in Korean, so not word for word.
It's not word for word. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Very far from word for word.
Words were wrong.
So I do it in a Korean accent? No.
Please don't.
He says that the reason is his mouth is too big. He's said this. He's put this in motion. Daisu just seems to accept that when he finds out. He's just like, well, yeah, that makes sense. This ruined your life. But what if Daisu deserved this imprisonment? How would we go about it? How would we make this massive, ridiculous, disgusting, deprived ending at least justified and earned? Because if we did that, then at least I'd come away with it thinking, this horrific film that I've watched, the ending of which is so warped and disturbed. Yeah. Just to give you guys a rundown, what Lee Woo Jin does is he hypnotizes Daisu after imprisoning him for 15 years to fall in love with his then 18-year-old daughter when he comes out, and he hypnotizes the daughter as well. They have a romantic connection whilst Daisu is on a warpath to find his imprisoner, and then they have sex, and at the end he gives him the big reveal that he's been having sex with his daughter, and he could tell her or he could kill himself depending on what Daisu does, and Daisu chops his tongue off and acts like a dog. And then we've got this bloody mess. Then the imprisoner, Lee Woo Jin, shoots himself in the head. The end. There you go. There's your lovely film. Right. So, Why did he do that? No reason whatsoever. But in our version, Daisu's character, it says here is portrayed as morally questionable. I don't even think you need to say is portrayed as morally questionable. We have the evidence in the film that Daisu is a morally questionable character. Yes. The drunken behavior at the start, the leeriness, the leching at the girls, the fact that he is described as a womanizer when he's a kid, and it's implied by his friend that he also had a selection of different girlfriends, probably didn't treat him that well. And even worse, the fact that when he is initially rescued by Mi-do and taken when he faints and she brings him back to her hotel, he tries to rape her.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
pretty bad.
He is a bad person. And yet his crime is telling a friend that he saw two people
shagging in
having
school.
sex. Didn't even mention incest. Right. So, here's what I think. In the pivotal scene, when Daisu discovers Woo Jin and his sister engaging in intimate acts, he remains unaware of the familial relationship. But rather than merely spreading the rumor, Daisu blackmails them into allowing him to have sex with her under the threat of exposing the affair. So he sees them in the classroom. He doesn't think this is as bad as it is. He thinks these two are getting it on. I'm going to get a piece of that. Hey, I'm going to tell everyone in school unless you let me shag you as well.
You know what? That would be fitting of a film this fucking dark as well.
He's fucked up. They know we have to do this because this is incest. This isn't just two people getting off. This is way worse.
Yeah.
So then Lee Woo Jin watches as Daisu takes advantage of the woman that he loves.
And then there's the pregnancy.
Yeah. So in this version then, Lee Woo Jin's... Daisu tells his friend that Lee Woo Jin's sister is still a slut. Well, definitely that girl's someone that you could get with, but then leaves. He doesn't mention about the whole thing that happened. So for him, he forgets it still. So it ties back into the storyline. It's a forgettable non-event for him, just where he was an opportunist, like he's shown to be in the other portions of the film.
I can see this character doing that.
He does that. But in this case, she actually does become pregnant. So you don't also have the phantom pregnancy ridiculousness of that part of the plot.
Okay.
She actually does become pregnant. She doesn't know who it's from. Is it Daisu? Is it a child of incest?
Yeah.
She kills herself. Lee Woo Jin is like 100% the reason. He's like, that child is definitely Daisu's. It's Daisu's child. Yeah. And he's the reason that she did this because he forced himself on her. And I saw it. I saw him with the woman that I love.
Yeah.
And when the big reveal happens, we as the audience don't think that's so out of pocket.
Yeah. It's a bit mental.
We've seen Daisu's not a great person. And so we get this revenge plot. Yeah. We come to he becomes like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Where we're like rooting for this guy who's him against the world, him against the man, him against society.
His captors.
But when it actually comes down to it, he's as bad. Maybe not as bad, but his punishment is justified.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then at least the whole incest thing with his daughter.
It just doesn't seem so...
It doesn't seem like, what the why did you make him do that?
It's like almost that you want a satisfying sense of justice in your stories, and it seems so unjust, this situation in the original Oldboy, that you want something to make it feel like he actually deserved this
torment. Like,
yeah.
And we spoke about it. You said, well, maybe the point was that he was just someone caught in a trap of... He was just wrong place, wrong time.
With just a real bad person.
And I just don't think they did enough to show that this guy, Lee Woo Jin, is a bad person just for the sake of it. They tried to make his actions rationalize or normalize to an extent that he actually was in love and Daisu did something terrible. But Daisu didn't do something terrible. No. He did what anyone would do in that situation and be like, oh, what's going on here?
I would definitely tell.
I'd have done exactly the same thing. Apart from I probably would have spread it worse. Even
I
if
don't
was
think you would.
maybe not like.
You'd have probably just said like, "Don't tell anyone."
Yeah, but maybe I probably wouldn't have just told one person.
Yeah,
I'd be like, by the way, guys,
a couple of besties. You
Yeah,
know, like,
exactly.
got some juicy goss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and what he did was he said, and then he said, "Don't tell anyone."
Yeah,
And
or
then
I'll
Lee
kill
Woojin
you.
Purely blamed him for this, whereas in this case, also the whole reveal, the whole twist that the whole catalyst for why he's in there. The twist then becomes that actually the daughter is, Mido is his daughter. That kind of becomes a twist rather than this is the reason why.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are twists and turns, but in this case, what they could do, for instance, is have it as originally he sees him with her. So he remembers perhaps that it was her lover, his lover.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's why, because I fucked your girl and something happened there. And then one twist could be they were incest. Then, it's
For
brother
sure.
and sister.
Yeah. Okay.
Then the twist is that if you have to have the incest of the daughter at the end. It just feels like, okay, you've been thrown way at the deep end. We're incest and you just caught it and now I'm going to completely ruin your life, rather than you are a bad person as well. We're all bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like he's gone for morally grey and not actually quite hit the mark in the way that he could have done. It wasn't satisfying.
Yeah.
And you can have a dark story that is satisfying. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it would have been, because I feel like one of the good things about this film is how dark it is. Maybe it's not for me, but that is certainly a big selling point.
You got to have some films that are dark.
And that your suggestion would solve the problem without making it a less dark film.
Yeah, I think other than...
It would make it more dark.
It would make it more dark.
Because now our protagonist is also like most definitively like...
Well, I think it's that dark anyway.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
he's that bad. He's a bad person.
He's capable of doing that.
He literally tries to rape someone in the film.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we'll brush that away because she loves him.
Yeah.
Like, that's fortunate, isn't it?
I think I brush it away a little bit because he has been in solitary confinement for 15 years.
Yeah, okay.
And I was he's probably...
Fair enough. Having said that, we do know the drunken behaviour and the leering at other people's girlfriends.
Yes.
We can presume that's not an isolated incident.
No, 100%. Well,
And
didn't
then-
someone
and
say
then
like
what we see
200?
is-
I'm sure someone said something about 200.
The number 200 girlfriends.
Came up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And so he's not a good person,
Yeah.
but we forget it in under the guise of look at him against the world.
Yeah.
Like, he pulls someone's teeth out. Okay, that's the revenge plot.
Yeah.
But then I think maybe you could have a better message of revenge. Look what revenge has made us justify.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you as the audience have justified this revenge, and we justified the revenge because there was no reason for him to be in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas they could have said, but actually...
He totally earned
He
his
could have deserved it,
position
and then
there,
you, as the audience, are questioning
it.
why you feel that way about characters.
I really like it. Yeah, I think that solves a few problems for this film.
Yeah, it's a change where I'm trying to actually have a positive impact on the film rather than.
It's hilarious how fucking angry you are talking about it.
Look, this film really grinds my gears.
Yeah, I can tell. 7.6 is so high for this amount of passion, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think that it's a film. Look, it's a film that's obviously good, and I did enjoy parts of it. But if you're gonna fuck me up that much, you better make sure that there's a reason behind it.
I agree. Listen, if you've listened this far, thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry for going on a bit there.
Let us know what you think in the comments below. Is Freddie on something, or is he completely missed the mark? Let us know down below. Plot.
Well, there's some holes. There's some issues. All right, so I mean, it's batshit insane. It is great twists.
Yeah, it's famous.
And cool setting. Cool, like the story is cool and interesting.
Yes.
Relies on the hypnotism. I didn't find that as big of an issue because like hypnotism in stories, like Yeah, it happens all the time.
But not like the central driving key point of the plot.
Yeah, maybe. But also if you're like, this is the sort of world where we have, makeshift imprisonment where you can pay.
I don't know that doesn't exist.
Maybe not, but it felt kind of like John Wicky, whereas like it's actually a bit of a different version.
It's quite far-fetched anyway.
Where you can have this, and so hypnotism is a bit more like where you can have. It's a world where a man can watch TV until he is able to beat 20 men in a brawl.
I was just about to say that.
So
I don't know though whether what you're doing there is actually convincing me to just go lower with my score. All the problems with the plot, what we can just say is this is a universe where that's okay.
I think for me,
we could just give every film a 10 for plot.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think it was fairly consistent in terms of it's a bit magical almost, even though it's not magical.
It is far-fetched.
You're like, okay, the hypnotism part isn't realistic, but so are other parts. So maybe it's just a world where that happens. What I didn't like was the justification of why he did it.
Okay, so what do you want to give it?
I mean, it is. What do you put? 8?
It's one of the greats, but it's got some. It's got.
Seeing as I couldn't even see what you put, and I said 8. Then
cool.
8 is great.
Character. I really liked the characters.
Good characters, But
I like the bad guy.
Yeah,
I liked the less bad guy, the protagonist.
8 is great.
The daughter was pretty good. She was all right. She wasn't anything insane, but she was quite good character-wise. I liked his mate who died from a CD-ROM.
Oh yeah,
back in the day.
8, I reckon.
Dialogue.
Some really good dialogue. You know what was your? Do you remember any of your favorite lines?
There was a line which I did want to ask someone about, which it kept saying, laugh and you laugh with the world and weep and you weep by yourself. Right. It said that a lot. I didn't really understand what they were.
It might be like a Korean idiom. I don't know that.
I figured, but I was kind of hoping you might know what it meant, or no guesses.
No, not at all.
No one cares when you're sad.
No, sadness. Happiness is better than sadness.
That is profound. And then there was something about sand and rocks.
Sadness is lonely. 4. No, there is a sick line. I don't know exactly the wording of it, but which doesn't help. But you know when he goes, you spent all of this time trying to work out why you were put in there, but what you needed to be asking yourself is, why did I let you out?
Yeah,
and that like whole the whole twist ending is pretty.
Is it dialogue?
It's pretty wild. No, but like the dialogue, some of the dialogue in there. So that one in particular, a lot of his lines, any of the times that he shows up, he saves him from a situation and goes, "See you later, Daisu," or someone says Daisu.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of dialogue, I guess. The sequence where the guy, where he saves the guy and tells him his story. There are a few quite cool lines.
Yeah, that's true. So where does that put it?
8 is great.
I'm wondering if we're gonna. Well, performance is.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a absolute belter of a performance from the cast.
Yeah,
especially
performance. I've said this to you before. The performances in foreign language films always get a buff because you don't actually know how they are delivering the dialogue.
I agree.
So you just really go by their body language and emotion. So it lends itself to quite big.
And there's the fighting buff or nerf if it goes wrong, where it's quite challenging to have those fight scenes.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like you've got to say that the the choreography of fighting sequences in this add to the performance.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Maybe a 9. Or an 8 is great. 8 across the board.
What do you
I'd say 9.
I think 9. I think
9. That fight sequence, like the whole, the way he fought as well, I thought was really cool.
It was awesome. And there was some really creative editing. You know, it might have aged a bit, but it was quite interesting to watch with the flip calendar and the. Remember when he was about to hit the guy around the head with the hammer and it drew like that line and it was there was some good there was some interesting editing moves.
Yeah, I thought visually it was a really obviously lower budget.
Yeah. Visuals.
We'll get onto that. Sorry, is that what we're on?
Yeah. I don't
Considering it was lower budget
I thought it was
really
great.
Cool, like the one take shot. I mean, the corridor fight is so good, and the way they did it so that it was basically like you could see the whole corridor
like
as if you're in the walls. Yeah, cross section. Like it was, that whole bit is so good.
And even if you didn't have that, there's still so many other things going for this film visually. Like, it's so interesting.
That sequence where he talks the guy down and then just leaves him
Yeah.
just as he needs to deliver the story, and then he walks out of the place and the guy just falls from the top.
So cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
8, 9?
Yeah, 8. 8 is great.
Sound. I thought it had some fucking brilliant moments with music. And
yeah, it felt very Matrixy, didn't it?
do you think it aged a bit then?
No, I like it. I like that it felt of that time. You know, it felt of that period, and it was kind of like being a bit of a time capsule of that kind of 4 or 5 years.
Yes, I agree.
From like the very late 90s to the very early 2000s, where everything was very like wow, chicka, wow, wow.
Yeah. With the glasses. It was
the glasses, and just kind of always shots of them, you know, things happening in the background as they're walking towards the camera. You
can tell. I'll tell you when it's most blatant is when you watch a trailer.
Yeah, it does actually feel. That's the one thing. Maybe one complaint you'd have against it is soundtracks like that of that period do feel like every single scene is a trailer. Yeah. So what do you reckon for this? I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really cool sound wise. Well, should we go 8 is great again?
Let's go 8 is great. Impact.
I
think we might have a non-tenor.
Yeah,
which is cool because that's not very common at the minute.
Well, it's a foreign language film. I just think it's too dark to have the massive reach.
Yes,
like it's such a fucked up story.
But it did have pretty big impact though, right? It still is quite an influential film.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I mean, for any Korean film to be that well known,
true. It reminded me a bit of Parasite, which I watched recently for the first time.
What about it reminded you of it?
Just how I left it feeling totally traumatized. Right.
I definitely preferred I think Parasite is an amazing film. Like I really do.
Is it not a bit traumatic though?
It is traumatic, but I felt like the trauma in it was like more interesting.
Yeah, okay.
Like it was traumatic, but it was a bit more subtle in how it delivered and packaged the trauma, and it did it in a very interesting way where it was almost like two films.
Yeah,
and there's like a divide in the middle of the film when it changes, and then there are some kind of spooky, scary elements. But this was a really fucked up film, but it also relied on some things that I didn't agree with.
I think that what I've realized from watching those two is maybe just when Korean films do dark, it has there's just something similar about it to me, and they do it very well. Like both of them really fucked with my head, where I was like, "Oh, this was a dark film."
Mm. Well, why wouldn't it be a 10
for impact?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just when you hold it up against what the other 10s are. You know, like we're talking 10s being Godfather, Jaws, like some of the most important movies of all time.
What would you say is a film that's got a 9 impact?
Oh, fucking. Should we see what we've given 9 for?
Yeah, but
Superbad. That's a good one. There you go. I'm quite happy with that.
Good, yeah.
Full Metal Jacket is another one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
they're important films.
So what about an 8? Is this
another
8?
Oh, we got another 8.
This.
We got another 8. Okay, so without further ado, the tired, hot, worn out, traumatized mate night have finally come to the end of the Oldboy saga and rated it the following in 9 different categories. Fred's enjoyment, 7.6, with a little note that says, I could go down. Jambo's enjoyment, 7.9. Plot, 8. Character, 8. Dialogue, 8. Performance, 9. Visuals, 8. sound 8, and impact 8, giving it an average score of,
8.
you guessed it, 8.04.
Bloody hell, almost bang on 8, wasn't it?
Which puts it, 06, beg your pardon, which puts it 50th percentile, or the 14th greatest film of all time, until further notice.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a film.
Thanks so much for listening.
Don't watch this film.
Listen, if you are the sort of person, right? I mean, I can't see being an hour into this and then still watching it, but if you are the sort of person that likes to watch Saw,
yeah,
then maybe this is the film for you.
Yeah, you want a film that you're like, ugh, why? Why did they do that?
I feel disgusted. I feel like I need a shower after watching it.
Ugh. Rewatched it again, and you know what? Us talking about it's made it worse. I didn't feel as bad about it. I didn't feel as bad about it until we went through it and like tried to work out the justification for all the horrible things. And then we had to talk about all the horrible things that happened. And we had to try and work out other versions of the horrible things happening. Now I just feel like I need a shower.
Thanks so much for listening, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
See you for the next episode. Which did we make a decision on before we can move on?
Casino.
Tune in next week for Casino, which will have 2 more what if videos. We might not post the what ifs first episode. We will find out. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.